It's summertime. The weather is warmer, the kids are out of school, so what better time to take a family vacation? Maybe you're looking for escape from the hustle and bustle of the modern world. So you decide to pack up your car with all the essentials: food, water, a couple of sleeping bags, maybe a tent or two, and then you hit the road. National parks provide the perfect escape from the stress of the modern world, attracting millions and millions of visitors each year. Acres of forest, crystal clear lakes, and beautiful mountain ranges, untouched by the modern world, make it easier to escape and relax. But some believe that these old forests hold their own secrets, and that once you enter the woods, you are re entering the food chain. Wild animals, unexpected weather changes, and unmarked trails can prove to be exceptionally deadly. But is it possible there's something more sinister waiting out there? People often report strange encounters, and some people just disappear with no apparent explanation. And not to mention, the isolation of the woods provide the perfect cover for people with malicious intents. To think about all these things can amplify our natural fears of isolation and the dark that us humans have. And the deeper you look into it, the more unsettling it gets. Hello, gentle viewers. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. I am Dam Reed, and we are continuing on with the strange and spooky outdoors. If this is your type of video, if you like to hear about the scary things that go on in national parks, make sure you like and follow along. But if it's not your type of thing, I do have videos on other topics like ghosts and vampires, and maybe some spooky archaeology stuff is coming. And if those things are your cup of tea, or just spooky topics in general, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss a single video. Now, let's get into it. Today we are looking at three of the most popular national parks with exceptionally long and dark pasts. But before I get into this video, since we are discussing national parks and their hidden secrets, it feels appropriate to mention that the formation of these popular tourist attractions required the forced displacement of indigenous peoples from their ancestral land. While these parks are sold as being pristine and untouched by humans, indigenous groups have lived and survived and thrived on this land for thousands of years, well before European settlers came and established these parks. And in the process, they have also criminalized their traditions, customs, and spiritual beliefs. While today many parks have adopted a model of co management, there is still so much work that has to be done when it comes to indigenous sovereignty and management of their land. We cannot discuss national parks without talking about the elephant in the room. Should I say the woods? Or the Bigfoot in the woods? Do you see where I'm going with this? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? That is the missing 411 phenomenon. So, missing 411, from my understanding, is essentially a compilation of missing persons, of people who've gone missing in the woods with no apparent explanation, through conventional means, that is. These are cases in which perhaps a child goes missing in the woods and is found either in an area that has already been previously searched or way farther away than they could possibly have gotten by themselves. Now, this was popularized by ex cop David Paulides, who has written many books about this topic and even produced a few documentaries. Many criticize this work and call it a conspiracy, as it appears that Paulides tends to pick and choose specific cases that fit his narrative and sometimes attempts to connect these disappearances to supernatural entities. And at the same time, he does not actually provide any concrete explanations. Also, in my research for this, David Paulides used to write books about searching for Bigfoot, which is crazy. So some people think that this is just like a natural evolution for him, from Bigfoot to missing persons and then mashing them up. So Bigfoot is out there snatching your kids. I don't want to be too hard. I do like the idea of Bigfoot being real, but I do not believe that he is out here laying in wait to take people off of the trails. I think Bigfoot is a gentle creature. I think that sometimes, unfortunately, people just disappear. And in the woods, it is easy to do that. You can fall into a cavern, and dense bush makes it easy to cover a body, hence why some people may never be recovered. And even if these cases cannot be solved through conventional means or appear strange, it does not automatically mean that something supernatural is afoot. Anyways, let's move on past that. First, we are going to talk about the Great Smoky Mountains. Bordering the states of Tennessee and North Carolina lies the oldest mountain ranges in the world, the Great Smoky Mountains, in which the mysterious Appalachian Trail cuts right through. Millions of visitors attend the park annually to hike the trail, enjoy the views, and witness the waterfalls. But under the blue haze that covers the mountain, there is so much more. Legends of ghosts, mystery lives, shape-shifting creatures, murder, and mysterious disappearances. And behind these legends is a landscape shaped by fear, displacement, isolation, and memory. Now, the geography is important to the landscape as it aids in the legends. The park consists of over 500,000 acres of mountainous terrain within the larger Blue Ridge and Appalachian mountain ranges. There are nearly 3,000 miles of streams, 850 miles of trails, and countless valleys and coves. This was home to communities isolated from the rest of the world, which contributes to the preservation and strength of their oral traditions, local stories, and folk belief. Before the existence of this park, this region was home to the Cherokee, long before the United States was even formed. The Cherokee have a deep spiritual connection to the land and believed the land was not something that you can own. The relationship between humans and the lands was reciprocal. The land cares for the people and the people care for the land. And natural features such as mountains and rivers hold sacred significance. The land equaled life, and they called this region, I'm so sorry for the pronunciation, Shakanaje, or the place of the blue smoke or mist, which refers to the blue mist that drifts across the mountain ranges. Now, of course, when the settlers came, they their two worldviews clashed. The settlers viewed land as a commodity that could be owned and basically do whatever they wanted with it in order to make a profit. And like many indigenous groups, the Cherokee were forced off the land that they lived on. Over time, that stories that come out of this region reflect this trauma, displacement, and violence. On the Blue Ridge Parkway, near mile marker 484, visitors often report seeing lights with no obvious source. They describe these lights as forms which rise into the air and then fall into the valleys or just flash in the darkness. Some say that these balls of light are the ghost of a father who died while searching for his daughter, who helps lost hikers find their way. And the Cherokee believe that these lights are the spirits of their ancestors. A more scientific explanation of this phenomenon is believed to be a result of either electrical charges from the granite deposits, or even biogas, or just regular ball lightning. Whatever you believe, the natural phenomena is transformed into cultural meaning, and the Smokies provide the perfect place for folklore to blossom, as the mountains offer obscure visibility and distort perceptions. The Foggy Mountain Range encourages mystery, and as a result, humans have formed different narratives to explain what is otherwise unexplainable. An old Cherokee legend is that of Spearfinger or Utalunta. Again, I apologize for the pronunciation, meaning the one with the pointed finger. Spearfinger is a shape-shifting being with skin that looks like stone and a razor sharp finger. She typically has the appearance of an old woman, but is known to shapeshift into her victims, who are often children, in order to gain access to more victims. She will enter their homes and attack while they sleep, using her spear finger to remove and consume their livers. And sometimes victims don't always die right away, instead surviving for just a few more days. Spearfinger is believed to reside in the Norton Creek hiking trail, searching for victims. People who have hiked this trail often report hearing faint whispers, seeing glowing orbs, and have just this general uneasy feeling until they leave the trail. Stories like Spearfinger and other monster legends are often told to reinforce social boundaries because she is said to target children. Her legend serves as a warning to keep children out of the dangerous woods and to be wary of strangers. Other legends in the Smokies are hauntings associated with colonial violence. It is said that 30 Cherokee warriors were killed and buried in a mass grave behind the Wheatlands plantation property. And it is believed that 70 enslaved people were killed within the home itself. Although I don't know about that specific claim, I did research and it did say that there is a nearby cemetery, so it's possible they were just buried on the property, but not necessarily that they were like murdered and killed in the house. And it is also said that Revolutionary and Civil War soldiers have also died on the property. The home also witnessed a familial betrayal, as one of the original owners of the home left the estate to her grandson. Jealous, her son, the father, confronted the grandson. However, the grandson was ready for him, and unfortunately, the confrontation turned deadly when the grandson killed his own father. Essentially, lots of death and the tired old Indian burial ground. But, anyways, people report hearing disembodied screams from the property, and it is said that a blood stain keeps appearing on the floors of the home no matter how many times it is cleaned. Whether this is true or not, the area has seen its fair share of bloodshed, and ghost stories provide a safe way for communities to basically reflect on their terrible histories without confronting it directly. There's also the legend of Lucy, who is a vanishing hitchhiker, reported to be seen along the Roaring Motor Nature Trail. While her story comes with different variations, it is believed to have started in the 1900s when a man saw a young Lucy walking barefoot on the side of the road. He pulled over, picked her up, and drove her home. After a few days, he returned back to the home, unable to stop thinking about the girl without any shoes on, walking on the side of the road. But on his arrival, an old man answered the door, and the old man informed him that there was no Lucy. She had died in a house fire many years ago. But to this day, people still report seeing Lucy walking down that same stretch of road. The isolation of the Smokies also provides the perfect cover for those who want to commit heinous deeds. In 1984, two hikers stumbled upon a horrific scene when they found the skeletal remains of a young woman. She was killed by a fugitive who was actually on America's Most Wanted at the time. And nearly a decade later, investigators were called to what was initially believed to be a car accident, but actually turned out to be a murder scheme conducted by the victim's wife, and a man she was having an affair with. Rather than risk losing custody of her children through a messy divorce, Alicia Shane Lavera convinced her lover, Brett Ray, who was living with Shane's sister at the time in the same apartment complex, to murder her husband, Kelly Lavera. Now, Kelly's family reported suspicion around Shane as at his funeral, she appeared to be enjoying herself a little too much. Then, police received a call from Jim Burney, who is friends with Brett, stating that he had picked Brett up after a party and he was covered in blood. He then told the police exactly where he could find the bloodied clothes and other evidence. Police also found a blanket believed to have come from the Lovera home. Now, blood typing of the clothes and the blanket confirmed to be a match of Kelly Lovera. They had bludgeoned Kelly in his home, dragged him through the apartment, and through a child's bedroom in order to take him out through the window. Despicable. And later dumped the body and his vehicle in a national park. Now, I think the idea was to make it look at like an accident, as the life insurance policy is said to double in the case of an accidental death. Now, of course, since I talked about missing 411, we also need to bring up Dennis Martin, who was a 7-year-old boy who went missing from the park in 1969. Paulides wrote about Dennis's case in one of his books, bringing renewed interest to his case. Unfortunately, his case still remains unsolved, and not a trace of him has been found despite massive search efforts. Dennis disappeared seemingly into thin air. Father's Day weekend was the annual camping trip of the Martin family. This consisted of Bill the father, Clyde the grandfather, Douglas the brother, and other extended members of the family. They were spending their second night in Spencefield when Dennis went missing. The children decided to play a cute little game in which they would sneak up on the adults and give them a little scare. So two boys went one way and Dennis went the other way. Two of the boys popped up, but Dennis never did. Due to the short amount of time of Dennis being last seen to him being missing, his father was certain that his son had been taken. He even went as far as to go to the FBI, who refused to get involved as there is no evidence of a kidnapping. Now, this is where some myths start to get incorporated into the story, as a witness is believed to have heard a child screaming and and then saw a disheveled man running out of woods carrying what looked to be a sack. This led people to assume that a wild mountain man was behind the disappearance due to reports of feral people living in the park prior to this event. Unfortunately, despite searching and researching, nothing was found, and eventually search efforts were stopped. And to this day, we still have no answers on what happened to young Dennis. Grand Canyon National Park. The Grand Canyon is one of the greatest natural wonders of the world, expanding across Arizona and covering 1.2 million acres, and layers of beautiful red rock expose millions of years of geological history. Starting out as a series of smaller canyons about 70 million years ago, the canyon has witnessed everything there is to witness: geological events and thousands of years of human occupation. And to the many people who originally occupied this land, the canyon is sacred. 11 indigenous groups have historic connections to this land, including the Havasupai, the Hopi, and the Navajo. To these groups, the land has so much more meaning to it, tied to their creation, spirituality, and collective memory. For example, the Hopi believe that the canyon is their ancestral land, a home imbued with spiritual energy and where you can pass between worlds. There is a specific area in the park that holds a gateway to the underworld, a place where ancestors can come and go, but is guarded by a skeleton man called the Masa. who wears a terrifying mask but is said to be beautiful and bejeweled underneath. You may know you are in the right place when you see strange lights and hear eerie sounds, which visitors often report hearing, along with the sound of tapping on rocks, as well as a general feeling of uneasiness. Sotuknang, Sotu, Sotuknang, Sotuknang, or the Spider Woman, is responsible for creating the world and would guide the Hopi between the worlds. People have reported hearing whispering and witnessing apparitions of Hopi people walking between the worlds. Just as beautiful as it is deadly, while the canyon has seen life be created, it has also seen life destroyed. From the 1800s to 2022, 900 people have met their untimely deaths at the canyon. Now, these include natural causes, self unaliving, helped unaliving, and just freak accidents such as getting hit by a falling boulder. A little bit of trigger warning for this next part. It does depict self harm, and very, it is a lot, very intense self aliving, in my opinion. But a woman allegedly took her own life after being inspired by watching Thelma and Louise over 50 times. Although unfortunately her death was not as clean as that depicted in the film. Patricia Altsolfo attempted to drive off the ledge when her vehicle got stuck. So she decided to get out and jump instead. Unfortunately, it was not steep enough, so she tried again. She crawled to the edge, so she crawled to the edge again, and then had to do it one more time before the fatal fall. Can you just imagine what she must have been feeling and to go through all, to be so determined to go through that? There is also an occasion in which a person jumped out of a helicopter during an aerial tour. In 1993, a man named Richard Spangler shoved his wife off the ledge and then claimed it was an accident. With no one else there was no way for anyone to disprove this. But this wasn't the only time that he would escape prosecution. Apparently, years prior, he had murdered his family, but it was deemed a suicide murder. It wasn't until 1999, when he was dying of cancer, well deserved, that investigators finally caught up with him and he finally admitted to his actions. A little too late, though. Any place with long histories and marked with sudden and tragic deaths are often coupled with ghost stories. There is also the legend of the Wailing Woman, who is seen roaming the Grand Canyon Lodge, adorned in a beautiful white dress carrying blue flowers. It is said that her husband and child had died as a result of a sudden rainstorm. Distraught with grief, she threw herself off the canyon. Additionally, a trail known for its challenging terrain, North Kabib, holds the graves of Reese Griffiths, who died by being crushed by a boulder and was subsequently buried on the trail. People who have walked the trail have reported seeing a mysterious blue light above where his grave is. Modern legends have also emerged from the canyon as forbidden zones or areas closed off due to their cultural or environmental significance have sparked wild conspiracies. Originating with the 1909 publication from the Arizona Gazette, an explorer claims to have seen hidden chambers in the park in which ancient Egyptian relics are held. But the Smithsonian decided to cover this all up. They took the artifacts and then closed it up so no one else could discover it. There have also been rumors of cursed relics going back to 1879 when a trader, Don McGuire, traded a Navajo blanket for some goods. The woman who gave him this blanket warned him that the blanket had previously brought her husband bad luck. Of course, Don did not believe these claims, but would soon learn to regret it, as he claimed to have experienced hundreds of calamities up until the day he lost it. To this day, rangers still receive letters from tourists who thought it was a good idea to take things out of the park only to receive bad luck or extreme illness. This next national park is in my home and native land of Canada, Nahanni National Park. Deep in the Dahecho region of Northwest Territories, so remote it can only be reached by air and water. Known for its beautiful landscape of 30,000 kilometers of mountains, forests, rivers, and deep canyons. These landforms are the work of millions of years of formation, making its topographical diversity unique to Canada's other national parks. But it is also known for its disappearances, headless bodies, and strange occurrences, which have transformed this land into one of Canada's greatest wilderness mysteries. But the real story is so much more than that. Nahanni National Park and the Mackenzie Mountains are traditional homelands of the Dene, were historically nomadic, following the migration patterns of the animals that they hunted. The name Nahanni comes from the local Dene to refer to the land that they live on, Naha Dehi, meaning river of the land of the Naha people. The Dene are known for their oral tradition, which tells of their deep roots and the living landscape of the region, and preserve fragments of real history. And their oral tradition is where the mysteries start. They have shared stories of a group of violent mountain dwellers who would come to the lowlands in order to raid their settlements. One day, the Dene had decided to strike back, and warriors had planned to strike in the dead of night. But upon arrival, they only discovered an empty encampment before them. But the fire was still smoldering. Were they aware of the attack prior to their arrival? Or was it something more sinister? All we know is that they were never seen again. However, language similarities between the Dene and Navajo languages have led some to believe that the Naha have simply migrated to the south, and the Navajo are their descendants. Well, speculative, it reflects larger migratory patterns of Athabascan speakers who move from north to south. Over time, this historical memory has been integrated into mythology. In the early 20th century, gold, gold prospectors began to swarm the region over rumors of gold in the area. And some of these prospectors also disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The most famous case was that of the McLeod brothers, Frank and Willie McLeod, who had traveled to the region with a friend named Robert Weir. 2 years passed and no one had seen or heard from them, causing their brother, Charlie, to return and search for them. Unfortunately, he did not find them alive. Instead, he found them decapitated at their camp. One of them had their arms reaching out as if reaching for their gun. However, their companion Robert was nowhere to be seen. Although there were reported sightings of him in Vancouver bragging about his gold. These were not the only strange deaths in the area. In 1917, a Swiss prospector wrote about his success in the valley of and striking rich. Shortly after, his cabin was found burned down, and his lifeless body, Sans head, was found close by. Less than 30 years later, a miner was reportedly found in his sleeping bag, also decapitated. Additionally, there is other instances of people going missing and having their cabins burned down in this region. Because of these incidences, and these stories, the region has adopted the nickname of the Headless Valley. Although some believe that the Naha are still living hidden in those mountain ranges, and they are the ones actually responsible for all these death and despair, allegedly wanting to either protect their land or take the gold for themselves. Some believe it's the result of a wahila, a wolf like creature that is said to roam the area. And get this, it is known to remove heads. While it is likely that these deaths are just a result of plain and violent greed, This new frontier generated new legends, merging indigenous stories with settlers' fears of the wilderness, making it difficult to be able to distinguish truth from storytelling and rumors. And with this adopted nickname, this land has long been considered as a hostile snowscape. Although another likely suspect was a mad trapper who lived in a crude cabin. After indigenous trappers had contacted the RCMP about a man who was tampering with their trap lines, the RCMP decided to investigate. They visited the home of an Albert Johnson. Apparently his name is just like an alias. They don't actually know his real name. Now, of course, Albert was less than forthcoming with the RCMP and basically ignored them after they had trekked over 100 kilometers to interview him. So they decided to come back with a warrant and a little bit of backup. Now, this ended in a shootout, leading to Albert escaping and a month-long pursuit, trekking over 240 kilometers, which eventually resulted in another shootout, this one fatally wounding Albert. Now, it is alleged that the RCMP had found tooth fillings on Albert's persons. This led them to believe that it was Albert that was responsible for the killings of all the gold prospectors. Now, over time, more and more legends come out of this region with reports of strange lights and UFOs with claims of cryptids such as the Bigfoot, Wahila, and the Nukluk, which I guess is a Bigfoot adjacent cryptid, just more human or Neanderthal like. Certain areas being closed off have also fueled the mysteries. Are they closed off for safety and conservation? Or are they closed off to keep something in? Isolated areas like the Nahanni National Park and other parks allows myth making to flourish. And the ambiguity of these dangerous landscapes require some sort of explanation, making the wilderness itself become supernatural and out of human control. The ambiguity of these dangerous landscapes require explanation, and the wilderness in itself has become this supernatural entity that remains out of reach of human control. Now, the Lore Launch has actually done a video, like a full, like hour-long video on Nahanni National Park and on Missing 411 and Dennis Martin. So I do suggest if you want a little more if you want way more detail and information, you definitely check out their video because I was already cramming too much, so I had to leave a lot of stuff out. But I may do, maybe in future videos, do more standalone where I just do like focus on one national park. But for now, I thought it would be cool to just do like a top three or something. You know what I mean? But, anyways, national parks can provide us with a sense of relaxation and a long lost connection with nature, but it can also evoke feelings of fear and uncertainty due to its isolation and unpredictableness. Many of these parks are quite old and have dark pasts or histories, which can make them seem even scarier, not to mention how easy it is to become lost or prey to the wild animals that call the parks their home. Ghost stories and tales of the supernatural add to the anxiety one might feel when entering these parks, but also inform us of the rich history of the land. But the truth is far less exciting. So let me put those anxieties to rest. Considering the amount of visitors that these parks receive, those who die or disappear in these parks are few and far between. From 2007 to 2024, that's 17 years across all of the parks, so that's hundreds of them, there were only 4,213 deaths. And the leading causes of deaths in these parks are not what you think. It's often drowning, followed by motor vehicle accidents. And despite being home to many dangerous animals like bears or mountain lions, Death as a result of wildlife is make up only a handful of cases a year. Now, I know I say only, but it is to force perspective. Millions of people attend these parks every year, and I do not fail to recognize that behind these numbers, these are still individuals with family and friends. They are not just numbers, these are people who led tragic ends. As for the disappearances, some may never be found, although most are. These can often be explained also through natural means. For example, we rely heavily on modern technology to navigate through the world, which can be unreliable. And once you venture off of unmarked trails, it is very easy to get turned around and lose your way. And people may fall, resulting in serious injury with no way to get help. Not to mention, most people are so far removed from nature, it is easy for us to underestimate the terrain or how quickly the weather can change from day to night. And being unprepared can lead to devastating consequences. Thick and dense forests can easily conceal individuals, and wild animals act as scavengers, making recovery efforts fruitless, leaving loved ones without answers. So, despite the scary tales that we told about parks today, don't let it discourage you from visiting. Just be prepared, stay on the marked trails, and let's protect our parks by being respectful to the land and leaving no trace. And by that I mean, of course, not disrupting the ecosystem and picking up after yourself. And that is all that we have for today. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future videos. And I will see you next time.